All right, we are live, AJ. We are here on Monday, June 21st to recap UFC Vegas 29, PFL 5. It's me, it's Adam Martin, Adam Martin, and my boy, AJ Schullo. AJ, what's up, man?
What's up, Adam? Excited to talk about some PFL and UFC recap. It was worth recapping, that's for sure. It's an eventful week of fights. And yeah, looking forward to chopping it up with you.
And, dude, I appreciate you joining me again. Obviously, Marcel's a little busy right now. He's a huge soccer fan, and he wanted some time off. And I was like, all right, I'll get AJ on. AJ's great, too. So we'll miss Marcel, but we got you on, AJ. And I'm looking forward to talking about this card with you. I know you have some thoughts about it, certain couple of fights in particular. So we'll break down the whole card for you guys. Might as well start with the main event, AJ. Actually, you know what? Before we even get into it, like, as far as your picks, bets, etc., how did you do? Because for me, it was basically a break-even night. It was like a 500 night. And I feel like lucky to have escaped with a 500 night because I feel like most people lost on this card, AJ. Like, it was a really hard card. And that Negu Mariano guy saved me because, like, the two units I wanted him saved me, AJ. It basically got me back to the green. So I was happy with that. But yeah, man, give me your thoughts, like, as a whole on your betting night.
Yeah, so my only bet lost on Procopio. We talked about beforehand. She had a little bit of a cardio dump. I'm not gonna, say like I should have seen it coming. Sometimes you get calls like that. Sometimes you don't. You could call it luck. You could call it variance, whatever you want. Fact of the matter is she lost. But kudos to O'Neal. She could push a heck of a pace. As it pertains to the card as a whole, I win about 50-50 on my picks. And in hindsight, it makes sense because we just had a lot of closely lined fights and a lot of the favorites. And I know you cast on Narimanu. Just the big favorites were just fairly untrustworthy, like Camor, and I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but like he was one for sure, the biggest favorite. And we had like a coin flip main event. Going into it, we had maybe some questions on Korean Zombie. Maybe we thought he was on his way out. Ige coming off a good win, but Korean Zombie, man, he just reminds us, you got to be an elite title contending featherweight to beat this guy. So it was a tremendous night of fights, PFL as well. Yeah, really happy with how it went.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. And I just want to mention tomorrow I'll be doing with Marcel the preview show for UFC Vegas 30, Volkov gone. So we'll do that tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, though, guys. So it's a little bit later tomorrow. Just wanted to give that programming note, AJ. Okay, so let's talk about this card here. Now, we'll start with the main event, work our way down, AJ. And you just mentioned it, Korean Zombie. Pretty outstanding performance, AJ. A pretty complete performance. The scorecard said it was 48-47, I think. I thought the fight was a lot more lopsided than that, to be honest with you. Like, and I picked Ige. I was kind of hoping he'd do better in this fight. Just tough fight to call, man. I think you picked Korean Zombie, if I'm mistaken. Like, good pick if it was. I obviously got this one wrong, guys. I just thought it was going to be a close fight. I don't think it was, despite what the scorecard say. I thought Zombie dominated with the grappling, especially. You look at the top control, AJ. The number was very high in this fight, and it just showed that he does have that tool in his back pocket if he doesn't want to strike with guys, AJ. He can use his ground game, which is good to know going forward. So give me your thoughts on Zombie and also Dan Ige.
Yeah, I always want to just reiterate to people, don't beat yourself up if you got a pick wrong. And I get picks wrong all the time, so there's no need to worry about it. Just Korean Zombie just put on a phenomenal performance. What can we say? He's a very underrated grappler, and I say that because while he's a good grappler on paper, we just don't get to see it all too often. The last time we really got to see him dominate a guy on the ground was like after he rocked Moicano or after he rocked Edgar. He would like sink in the hooks and be so strong. But this was like a true, like just dominant grappling performance by Jung. I know Ige hurt him in round 5, and but Ige just made a mistake, chose to grapple with him. And I guess the theme, I buried the lead a little bit when you asked me my thoughts. I did not talk about the judging here. That was a little bit of a controversy. You brought up a scorecard. They got the winner right for the main event, but the scorecard itself was a little bit perplexing amongst some other fights on the card. So I apologize to the listeners for not pointing that out. I did bury the lead there with the judging.
No worries. Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats right now for this fight. Like, this is the thing that, like, again, numbers are, you got to look at them, but you also have to look at them with the right context. Like, for instance, the significant strikes were 92-80, right? And you'd think, okay, that's pretty competitive. But then, of course, AJ, you got to look at the takedowns, 3 for 5 from Zombie, 10 minutes of ground control, 2. So, yeah. And we got Josh in the chat. What's up, man? He says, Zombie surprised me. Dude, he surprised me, too. I mean, obviously, I knew he could win. I didn't bet on this fight. I'm like, all right, I'm going to pick Ige, a little bit younger. I liked how he looked against Tucker, obviously. I'm like, I'm going to take a shot in this guy. But clearly not an elite guy. I mean, Ige's solid. He's very tough. Not an elite guy, AJ. I would say like he's in that 10 to 15 range. But Zombie's like borderline top 5, right? So he's right there, and this fight really did prove that he is a elite guy. So we'll see what they do next for him, man. I mean, there's a few options obviously out there. Like, he's calling out Max Holloway. That's a fight he wants. He says Max Holloway doesn't have any power in his punches. So, I mean, I'd love to see that fight, but also the Yair Rodriguez fight would be good if they ran that back too. The first fight was obviously amazing and crazy ending, so that'd be good. I mean, there's a lot of matchups for Zombie, guys. Anytime you match up this guy with anyone, it's going to be exciting. All right. So I got to talk about this fight, AJ. And Spivac was basically, I hate using the word AJ, and Josh, I agree with you completely here. Dude, I mean, I had this guy, I literally put him on every team in my DraftKings. And I had 150 teams. I put on every team because I was that confident, which I would have never did. But I was that confident he would finish him, and he only got 75 points in DraftKings. I thought he looked terrible in this fight, Spivac. I thought I got lucky, man, honestly, with this one. I did bet on it. I laid the 2 units to win one. He cashed 29-28, but the first round, he looked terrible, AJ. There were some close calls there. AJ, no ground and pound for this guy, no sense of urgency. I wasn't impressed by Spivac, even though I won my bet on him. I don't know what your thoughts were, man, but I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, it was the end of like the unusual chain of events on this card, right? Because this was a fight that was the most likely fight to not go the distance, and yet it goes to the distance rather comfortably. So it's all just hilarious as it pertains to Spivac. Yeah, it was kind of an underwhelming performance. Yeah. He did what he needed to do to win, but didn't really put himself in a position to really finish Oleinik. Oleinik was able to get him to the ground, which was a bit of a sweat there at the end of round 1 when he took his back, but I think we kind of know, like as Josh pointed out in the comments, like we kind of know Spivac's ceiling based on this performance in the previous ones. Like, yeah, he's a top 15-ish heavyweight, but as it pertains to like a title challenger, he has a ways to go. He is a young guy though, so who knows? And you know what? Look, I know it didn't work out for you this time, but I applaud you for actually taking a stand on Spivac, because those are the type of things when I've actually won big on DraftKings is because I took a bold stand and it really paid off. And that's what you need to do to win. So I want to congratulate you for at least trying to do that.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, my bets were break even, but DFS was a little bit of a loss this week. It just, I didn't have Glenn. I didn't really see that coming, AJ. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. He got 140 points. I didn't really have him. And there's a few other surprises too. But even like, here's the thing. I called Negro Mariano 6,900 AJ in DraftKings, right? Guy only puts up 77 points, though. It's an okay night, but again, you needed Matt Brown, and Matt Brown, I knew he had a chance. We'll talk about him in a minute, but I ended up picking Lehman. I should have stuck with my initial instinct on that one. But it's all about this fight. Marlon Vera, Dave Grant. What a fight! Amazing fight. Fight of the night. Kind of weird scorecards, I would say too. The 30-26. I don't know about that scorecard. I had it. I think 29-27 is a good scorecard. I think Grant won the first round. And then I think it was, 10-9 and 10-8, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the two. Let me double check what it was. What was it? The third round was 10? Yeah, I think the third round was 10-8, right? He was just cutting. I mean, it was a great fight, but Marlon Vera looked like in this fight, he really looked like a guy that could contend for a belt. I mean, the elbows, he says that John Jones inspired him with AJ from the clinch, just absolutely brutalized Davey Grant. Davey Grant, I mean, I told you, AJ, this guy's super tough. Like, it's hard to knock. You could hurt him. It's very hard to knock this guy out. And the fact he went 3 rounds is pretty amazing here because he took a lot of damage. But I thought Marlon Vera looked outstanding, and he wants Dominic Cruz now. So give me your thoughts on the fight and his call out.
Oh, yeah, it was an amazing performance by Vera. And I do think the correct scorecard was 29-27. I think the third round should be an easy 10-8. That had all the makings of it. He nearly finished him more than once. He had him mounted for more than a couple minutes, 3 minutes at least, and was beating a crap out of him. And then, yeah, you give Grant round 1. He's obviously next level tough, but like this just proves to show like Vera has improved tremendously since the first fight. And Davey Grant has too, but just you bring up the age thing, Grant's like 35. Vera's like 29, 28. So he's like closer to his prime of the two. So yeah, kudos to Vera. And I do think that call up makes a ton of sense considering where both guys are at.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, there's some funny video going around. It's like, it's on BJ Penn behind it, but Vera found Cruz, I think, changing backstage after his commentating duties. He had his pants down. Bisping walks in with the camera. He's like, hey, what are you guys up to?
Oh,
he has his pants straight by his waist. It's really funny, but Vera's like, I want to fight you. And he was like, I want to fight someone more higher ranked. But I think it's a good fight. I would love to see that fight. If I'm Cruz, like, I don't want that fight. I can see why he doesn't want the fight. I mean, you're facing a younger guy who brutalized you with elbows. Like, I don't know if that's a good fight. So I can see why he doesn't want AJ. I think he probably wants like the winner of Aldo and Munoz, maybe. Like, maybe that's what Cruz wants. That fight takes place in the summer. I don't know. Maybe those guys are ranked really high now. Maybe, like, I don't even know. let me just see these comments here, guys. We had Josh say he thought Grant won these around for sure. Josh, he won the first round, and the third round was definitely 10-8. I'm with you on that. His face was. I don't know if you saw a picture on his Instagram, AJ. His face was just absolutely brutalized. Matt says, respect to Grant. This fight made me think Vera probably caps out around top 10. Yeah, he's like in that 10 to 15 range, I think. And Grant's just below him. He's like in that 15 to 20 range, maybe a little bit below that. I don't know. I think Grant's improved. I mean, the guy, dude, he was chucking bombs. He was chucking leather. He has a lot of power, AJ, and he has good technique now. He's able to really maximize that power. So, when he fights a guy like Martin Day, who's extremely hittable, AJ, you can see why he puts him out, right? But a guy like Vera, I mean, Vera, his defense has improved too. He looked good in this fight, man. Now another guy looked good. You called this one, AJ. You told me last week, you were like, I think this guy can be sneaky, and I put him in a lot more teams after you told me that. Sungwoo Choi. I also put Rory MacDonald on a lot more teams too, but we'll talk about Sungwoo Choi, and he looked amazing. Outstanding performance by this guy, AJ. I think he's a teammate of Korean Zombie, if I'm not mistaken, and I mean, the guy just looked incredible. We talked about the chin problems with Julian Erosa. The guy's extremely chinny. He's been knocked out quite a few times now. Let me double check how many times. 1, 2, 3. He's been knocked out 4 times in UFC, guys, and he's definitely been knocked out before the UFC too. So you put him against a guy who people slept on his power a little bit, Sungwoo Choi, but a guy, AJ, comes from a Muay Thai striking background and who struggled his first 2 fights, but he's really putting it together, AJ. Give me your thoughts on Sungwoo Choi, man. I know you like this guy's sting.
Yeah, I just thought like his chance to win inside the distance in this fight was being a bit underrated. Like he was around like plus 220 or something like that. And we talked about it beforehand. Like Erosa gets dropped in like literally every fight, even the Landwehr fight he got dropped in. So it's just like when you got a guy like Choi, who, as you mentioned, is a great striker, young guy, he's sharp, he's got power. It's not really a huge surprise that he went out there and won by knockout. So of course, Erosa, like he could have won that fight in theory, but like if he's just keeping his hands down, literally begging you to hit him, and like Choi's also long and rangy himself, it just kind of was a tougher matchup for Erosa in hindsight. So kudos to Choi. That's his 3rd consecutive win in a row. And yeah, I do think he's a pretty underrated guy because when you look at his losses, Tucker and Evloev, those are 2 really good grapplers. So, when he gets matched up against another guy like that, I'd be hesitant about him as a favorite. But, when he's getting matched up with these sorts of guys, I think him being a favorite makes sense.
For sure. Let me get this. This is a good comment from Jose. He says, people will disagree, but Spivac is a prospect UFC needs in the division. It's only 26. Beat a Grand Wizard on the ground slowly but surely, keep improving. I understand, Jose, and I completely agree. I like Spivac. Don't get me wrong. I just was disappointed to get the finish. I just think he played it a little bit safe. I think there were some times where he had position on Oleinik, AJ. He could have been rating down ground and pound. And you know how easy Oleinik is to knock out at this point of his career, guys. Like, you just have to overwhelm him with punches, and the referee probably would have stopped the fight. So I was disappointed to get a finish. I mean, I honestly think he should have, and I think the UFC was probably disappointed. And I know Dana White had a picture with Oleinik after, but I still feel like this is probably it for Oleinik, AJ. I mean, they might give him one more fight, but I don't know, man. He's turning 44 this week, guys. He's the oldest male fighter in the roster. So I'm not sure what you're thinking. You think give him one more, AJ, or you think he's done, Oleinik, in the UFC?
Sure, why not? They probably will, but I just kind of hope like he retires because he's got over 80 fights,
I know, it's crazy. I know, it's crazy. All right. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We'll see what they do with him. I'm just counting up, by the way, I was counting up Erosa's knockdowns against best on UFC stats. Man, 6 knockdowns against, AJ. That's a lot. He's only got 2-4, but he does have power, but guy's chin is just not great. All right, this fight, this is one that I did call Bruno Silva. And I know we talked about this one. You liked Wellington Turman, and I got to be honest, AJ, first couple minutes, I'm like, okay, he's just going to wrestle him. AJ was right, and then all of a sudden, the tide turned. This guy got on top. And like I said, AJ, that grounded pound for this guy, that's how he knocked out Frolov or whatever in his M1 fight. So I knew that was his best weapon. Once he got on top, unleashed damage. And look at this, AJ. Wellington Turman went 0 for 10 in takedowns attempted. 0 for 10 in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. That's crazy. Give me your thoughts on this guy, Blindado, and also Turman.
Yeah, I got to be kind of weary of Turman's chin going forward, kind of like we'll get to Silva later on. I just, 2 knockouts in a row. And I mean, like, yeah, Silva's got some power, don't get me wrong, but like when it's like from ground and pound after like the Andrew Sanchez fight, like that's where it becomes an issue, right? So, yeah, I think Turman came in with a good game plan and he tried to execute it. It just didn't work out. He didn't get the result he wanted. And kudos to Silva. I mean, he proved a lot of doubters wrong. A lot of people were questioning this guy would be coming in over 2 years, USADA suspension. He pulled off some upsets when he was in M1, he proved he belongs in the UFC after this performance. So kudos to him. His ground game I thought looked better as well. I always like it when guys are, taking time away and they're definitely sharpening up their game. So I thought it was a good performance by Silva, and I'm a little bit weary about Turman going forward, to be honest with you, though. So we'll see.
Yeah, Matt says Turman seemed to allow the ground and pound to look for a BJ opening. Should not have done that. Yeah, his chin is not very good. Matt Mack, he says, can we make sure that UFC doesn't rush Choi? Definitely will need defensive grappling work. He's talking about Sung Woo Choi. Yeah, I don't think they're going to rush him. Like, that division is stacked, 145. So, like, they've been taking their time with him. I mean, he might get a guy like Andre Fewley's fighting Daniel Pineda. Maybe if Andre Fewley wins, they could do that fight. Sung Woo Choi, Andre Fewley. That'd be a good fight, right? Something like that, AJ, like a borderline top 15 guy. Maybe Sohail Youssef, too. Something like that. Maybe, but you're right. I don't even know if they'll give him a ranked guy. We'll see. Get these other comments. Jose's asking, do you think Max and Yair make sense? I mean, that's the fight they want to do, obviously, but it got postponed. They're trying to do Giga Chikadze now versus Yair on short notice. I hope they do that fight. I hope Yair takes the fight. I don't know if he will, but I'd like to see that fight. Choi versus Steven Peterson. I think he's above Steven Peterson, but if they want to do that fight, that's fine too. How does Romanov versus Oleinik sound? Maybe they'll do Espino versus Oleinik instead. They could do Espino Oleinik. Romanov is coming. I don't think he should have won the fight, Jose, but technically Romanov won. I'm looking at his record. I was looking at it the other day. I'm like, wait, undefeated? I completely forgot he won that technical split decision in that awful fight. It was so bad. Anyways, let's go on to the next fight here. Matt Brown. I mean, Gio Lehman, like just like Turman, came in with a good game plan. He's sticking and moving, outpointing Matt Brown, then just the chin. Once again, AJ, you knew it was going to be an issue with this guy. Gets knocked out here. Thoughts on this fight, man?
Yeah, Lima, he won a few fights without really getting hurt badly, or a couple, I should say. He didn't really get hurt by Muhammad. He didn't really get hurt badly by Jumo. But then actually against Court McGee, he got dropped at the very end of the fight. And then we saw the durability show up again here with Brown. I was on record and I picked Lima here. My sort of thought process was just, Brown, as tough as you could get. I mean, no doubt a UFC Hall of Famer, but at 40 years old, in watching the Condit performance, I wasn't sure exactly where he was at, but he looked right in that camera, and you heard what he said. He says, "I'm 40," and I'm not going to repeat the last word, but I mean, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for the guy. I mean, he's one of the legends of the sport. Even at this stage of his career, he's like must-watch TV because you just never know what the guy's going to do. Like, he's just going to do something crazy. So, veteran performance. Despite an early deficit, came back and got the knockout. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I saw Matt Brown fight. The first UFC card I ever went to was UFC 123 in Detroit, Rampage with Cheetah. He fought Brian Foster on the undercard, got choked out. At that time, his record UFC was 4-4, and he was on a 3-fight losing streak, and they were about to cut him. They gave him another fight, and he's really just resurrected his career. He's turned into a legend. So I don't know what happened and what changed with this guy in that after that fight, but he just really changed, and the guy is kind of like a legend, like you said, super tough. He's calling a lot of guys now. He's saying, like, yeah, this is what Jose's saying, not Nick Diaz and Matt Brown. I think it's a good fight. I think it'd be a good fight too. Nate Diaz is a good fight. I mean, these guys are durable. They could also Nick could probably knock Matt Brown out. I think also Robbie Lawler's a good fight if he wants to fight again. He's calling out Lawler. He said Donald Cerrone. And Damian Maia is another fight he wants back. Those fights, I think they're all rematches. He wants rematches. But I think, if they want to go with the fresh matchup, the Diaz brothers. So any of those guys make sense, AJ. I'm fine with any of them. Let's go to the other fights on the card, the prelims. All right, let's go to this fight. Nikolai Negumereanu and Aleksei. I did call this upset here, AJ. I'm pretty happy with it. It was the biggest dog in the card, plus 210. And really, it was more of a fade on Kimura. I just wasn't sold on the guy, AJ. I looking at the guy's tape, I'm like, guy's, kind of okay. He's got some power, but didn't really impress me. And I thought, Nikolai's being a little bit. We talked about it. I think maybe he was off camera, but just the time away being, with the improvements he could be making, and it looked like he had been training his wrestling with guys like Kamzat and stuff for this fight. So I thought he looked good in this fight, AJ, Nikolai, and I definitely think he should have won the decision. It was a split decision, but I thought he won. What are your thoughts on this fight, man?
Yeah, this was another one, like, the judges got the winner right, but, like, the scorecards weren't accurate. I don't know how you don't give Narimanu at least 2 rounds, like, clear. I think you could even make a better case for 30-27 than 29-28 Camer, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, but yeah, good call by you. My friend John Kelly as well called this. You two are the only ones I know that called it, so that's awesome. It feels great to be on an island, and then when it comes through, people remember that, and that's Cool. That's very cool. Yeah, Kmore, I mean, he still showed a lot of the same issues, striking, defense, cardio. And I'm not a huge narrative guy. Like I look at them in my handicapping process, but I tend to think a lot of people look at him more than I do. Maybe it's something I should factor in the future a little bit more, put a little bit more emphasis on it. But this is definitely something that I think, like you said, the time away, the improvements, perhaps the UFC at one point releasing him, or maybe it was like a conflict or something like that. Yeah. Maybe fire this guy up and force him to go back to the drawing board and improve. So yeah, kudos to yourself and everybody else that was on this, because he looked like the favorite out there. So
I appreciate that. And yeah, he signed with another promotion and then got to fight back in the UFC. I don't know what happened with him, but I'm glad you got another fight. I think they'll give Kmore one more fight to you guys. So Mac, I didn't think Nicky's fans cried were that big a deal. It didn't seem like it, but the referee was really screaming at him. So I mean, I think you could have taken a point, I guess, because he did it a few times, but it didn't seem like it was really impacting the fight. But I could be wrong about that one. It is what it is. I think at the end of the day, I think the judges got the winner right, and we'll move on. But I think at least one of them, or maybe two of the judges scored the first round for Kmore, which I don't understand, because that was Megan Mariano's best round. Like, also the stats, I don't know about the stats in this fight. You got to be honest, guys. It says Kmore outstruck him 102 to 71 significant strikes. I don't buy that. I think it's a very hard job to do these strike stats if you're going so fast. But real time, it sure seemed like Nikolai was landing more strikes, didn't it, AJ?
Yeah, I've been trying to bang this drum for such a long time. Literally, the UFC is the only sport that does not have like an objective scoring system. So my opinion has always been like, just get rid of significant strikes. Just call them all total strikes. And people could agree with that or not, but I think that at least gives more clarity for situations like this and other situations as well, because it, like you said, like the stat sheet says one thing, but when we watch the fight, it told a completely different story. So while the stats paint the picture at times, this was a case where it doesn't, and I think we could get more uniformity, if we will, by fixing this up. But yeah, I think the stats were a bit skewed here by quite a wide margin.
Yeah, and again, it's a new sport. The sport's still like in its infancy, and I think the stats and stuff will get better, AJ, through time. And I'm with you though. Like, I'm actually looking deeper at the stats now, and though Kmore technically, according to this, outstruck Nikolai with the significant strikes. If you look at the first and third round, the third round, total strikes, it went to Nikolai. It's just I don't know, AJ, I'm with you. It's kind of confusing. Like, I feel like there is like a I don't know. I don't understand really what I know. I've read the definition of a significant strike, but I still feel like I look at the stats sometimes and they just make me scratch my head. AJ, like, I look at this fight and I'm like, how did he only land 71 significant strikes? I thought he was just battering Kmore's head across the octagon, guys. Like, I'm surprised by that. Anyways, how about this fight, AJ? Wow, I mean, kudos to this girl Murata, man. I mean, she's tough as nails, AJ, but I think she broke her arm here against Jandiroba, and Jandiroba looked outstanding. Give me your thoughts on this one, man.
Yeah, I got to be inspired by Murata's effort there, because she had a swollen up eye and a broken arm or broken elbow. I don't even know. Like, something was really jacked up with her arm there. And like, you could just tell by the way she was holding it, like she just wanted to fight through it and she wasn't throwing it. And so, but kudos to Jandiroba too. I thought her striking looked better than ever. She's still not like a perfect striker, but it shows me improvement. And like, yeah, she's just so nasty on the ground, Jandiroba. Like, I was pretty interested to see how this fight would go down if it hit the ground, and we kind of saw what happened. I was pretty surprised Jandiroba didn't shoot for takedowns on her own, but maybe that was just more so she was kind of counting on Murata to do it as well. And she was also having success standing. So I think this was kind of like a levels fight. I think Murata can get better, but at this point in time, I don't think she could compete with a woman like Jandiroba, who's top 10 in this weight class. So this is a stacked weight class, but I have high hopes for Murata and Jandiroba's future.
Yeah, I thought she looked outstanding. She's technically only 3-2 in the UFC, but I mean, that fight with Mackenzie Dern was super close. And, she even gave Carla Esparza a good fight in her debut. So like, this girl's super tough. She's like borderline top 10. Murata is still kind of one-dimensional, AJ. I like her, but she's one-dimensional. Hopefully she can improve the other aspects to her game. All right, this fight, Chaos Williams, Matthew Summersberger. I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut decision here for Chaos Williams. Yeah, and it was me. I thought it'd be a competitive fight. It was, but I thought Chaos, I think he probably won every round, or 29-28, I guess. But yeah, he definitely won the fight. Any thoughts, AJ?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because both of these guys have like one hitter quitter type power, but like it showed that like, durability is definitely something we factor in, right? And they both could take a punch and some, especially Semmelsberger and Williams too. I know you saw that screenshot where he hit him clean and his just whole face just got turned the other way. But yeah, I was questioning if Chaos could win a decision sustainably in the UFC, and he answered that question here. I would have liked to see Semmelsberger wrestle on his side of things too. I think that would have increased his chances of winning. I know that he tried a couple times, but like it was more so he was just trying to clinch and not really dive at his legs in open space. But kudos to Chaos nonetheless. I think he's got some underrated volume. 91 significant strikes for a guy that's just known for power punching is actually really impressive. So I thought it was a good showing by Chaos. Semmelsberger will be back, I'm sure. Just he wasn't ready for this type of opponent quite yet.
No, I agree. I thought he was going to wrestle a little bit more too. I thought, especially in the third round, but Chaos didn't really get too tired. He looked good with the cardio. All right, let's get to these other comments here. Jose's asking Verda versus Gadela or Nina. Yeah, she wants to fight Nina Nunes, so that's the fight she wants. I would watch that. And Matt says he thinks she can be a champ. It's possible. I mean, that division is definitely, I'd say, pretty wide open. All right, we got to get to this fight. Jose says, was Roki robbed? He thinks so. Matt Mack, the decision was rough. I bet on Roki Martinez. AJ, I told you he was my bet of the week, my dog of the week last week. And I think he got robbed too. But it was a close fight, so I'm not going to cry about it. I think he should have won the fight, though. I thought he did enough to win 2 rounds. The work rate I thought was higher. It was a super close fight. He overcame that size advantage by fighting in the clinch, which was a smart game plan. The problem was he rested too much in the second round. And it was kind of a bad look, I think, for the judges. And the third round, it was honestly a coin flip, I guess, for them. And they're like, all right, we're going to give it to Josh. But if you look at the total strikes, AJ, in that third round, 79-28, and 2 of the 3 judges gave to Josh Parisian. I don't know about that. Again, stats are just one thing, guys. We all saw the fight. Most media members had this one for Roki. This one hurt a little bit, AJ. I got to be honest. I'm not going to cry about it, though. I mean, it was close, so I'm not going to cry about it. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, the first round was just like crazy because like Martinez was looking like Kamaru Usman out there with just his clinch control and his ground strikes and this and that. He's controlling the bigger guy in there. But yeah, I think your read on the fight was good, even though the bet lost, because you acknowledge like there was a reach disadvantage here, a length disadvantage. But Roque still forced the pocket exchanges, still got the clinch, and you could still make a case even with that he won. Looking at the stats, 245 strikes to 100. That is a massive gap in favor of Roque, and I could definitely see where people were coming from. I think it was like more coin flippy than anything. Like definitely Roque won round 1. I think Parisian won round 2, but it wasn't by as wide of a margin. And then round 3, I thought like Roque won, but it was definitely closer than round 1. So yeah, it was another decision where it was just kind of perplexing. I mean, I just pretty surprised that at least 2 judges didn't give the fight for Roque. I hope they give him another chance. I just think that they're matching up with these guys that are like wrestling them or just so much longer than him. Like all heavyweights are big, obviously, but these guys with like 80-inch reaches and they're 6'4", 6'5", like you know what I mean. So
I'm thinking maybe that Chris Barnett guy, the Huggy Bear guy, maybe the guy that fought Ben Rothwell. He's also like a chubby heavyweight. Parisian though, I gotta be honest, I'm gonna fade him again, AJ. I don't care who's fighting, guys. I'm fading him. He shouldn't have won this fight. All right, a couple other fights here. Okay, I mean, I don't know how this guy didn't win a bonus, but yeah, Ricky Glenn. Unbelievable knockover, Joaquin Silva. First fight in 3 years, AJ. I was trying to avoid him. I'm like, this guy hasn't fought in forever. I can't touch this guy. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll lead towards Silva, a little bit more proven in this division. But, man, caught him clean and then dropped him again. 2 knockdowns. Guy had 140 points in DFS, AJ. I mean, wow. Wow. And this was I just didn't expect this one. There's always a surprise every card. This was Rick Glenn surprising me. So I'm not surprised he won. I knew it was going to be a competitive fight, but I didn't expect him to start Silva like this. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, wow is the right word because Glenn is he's not known as a power puncher.
Yeah.
He's more of like a volume and durable come at you type of guy. And he hurt Tucker and now he hurt Silva. And that I think more so speaks to the durability of those other guys because Glenn doesn't really hurt anybody else. This wasn't the first time we saw Silva hurt. We saw Silva hurt by Jared Gordon. We saw Silva obviously hurt by Hack Press. And so I got serious durability questions about him going forward. Glenn, kudos to the win, but it still doesn't show me a whole lot. Like maybe in this time off he's developed some power, but I'm not exactly sold on that yet. I would like to see him a bit more tested. I would have liked to see what this fight would have looked like had it gone 3 rounds, because we just saw one variation of the fight. If it went 15 minutes, I would have thought that Silva would have beaten him. So I know there's some other smart people that were on Silva there as well. So again, you get some of these predictions wrong, and sometimes they look hilariously bad, but whatever, on to the next thing.
I mean, I don't think anyone expected this, the way he knocked him. I mean, you could say he won by knockout, but like this, I don't know. If you did predict it to happen like that, kudos. All right, last fight here, AJ, Laura Procopio, your girl, she was winning the fight, and then she just got tired. And Casey O'Neill, man, very good prospect here. 23 years old, AJ gets the finish in the 3rd round. Man, I love seeing her get the finish too. 2 straight finishes in the UFC, and I think I talked about it with you, or it was with Marcel last week. I mentioned that actually the over did cash, but just the fight not going the distance was like plus 200. Like this girl Casey O'Neill, her fight seemed to end inside the distance, so something to keep in mind going forward. But give me your thoughts on Laura and Casey.
Yeah, if you put $5 on a parlay for like O'Neill to win by submission in round 3 and Glenn win by knockout in round 1, you just hit the lotto right there. But anyways, this fight, Procopio went out there. She won round 1. She had like an issue that I guess caused her cardio to dump. I'm not exactly sure. Her other fights, her cardio didn't show to be this bad. So I don't know. Maybe it's just O'Neill's pace that overcame it. But kudos to O'Neill. This is her second, dominant win. She overcame some adversity here, which was nice to see. She trains at Extreme Couture, and she's a young lady, so we could expect her to get better. Procopio, I don't really know what to make of this performance, but as it pertains to O'Neill, I think she's got some upside. I would like to see her striking defense a bit tighter. I know that she's done some work at Tiger Muay Thai in the past. Maybe she makes another trip out to Thailand again. But I mean, she's got upside. She's undefeated, and it's nice to see fighters. We get to see what they're like when they get their backs up against the wall, how they respond, because she didn't just fold. She got fired up even more and fought back. So kudos to her. Yeah,
no, I'm with you on all that. All right, maybe just got these last comments, guys. Matt says he likes that O'Neill wants to move slow. Seems like a plus athlete, needs to develop skills. I like this girl, man. She's good looking. She could fight. I think the UFC could potentially have a star in her hands, AJ. I really do. I mean, this girl's good, man. She's got that killer instinct. She said she took pleasure in finishing this girl and choking her out cold. Like, I'd love to hear that. Like, even though it sounds crazy, that you'd love to hear that from a fighter. That's great, man. She's got that killer instinct, so I like that. Matt says he remembers when Rick Glenn came over from the USOF. Dude, I used to like Rick Glenn there. He was a champ there. He's a good fighter. The 3-year layoff scared me, but Joaquin Silva's change should have scared me a little bit more, I guess, AJ. All right. Any other thoughts on this card before we move on from this one?
No, let's move on.
Hey, we're going to do a little bit of PFL recap too, guys. All right, I got to get your thoughts. You guys can chime in the comments for this. I mean, listen, I watched the fight. You guys watched the fight. I thought Rory MacDonald won this fight. I arguably thought you could have given all 3 rounds, but at least 2. I mean, I don't think it's the biggest, like the worst decision I've ever seen. I do think the judges got it wrong, though. What do you think, AJ?
I missed this fight, but this was a minus 1,000 betting line here. This was pretty crazy. I mean, because everybody seems to think that Rory won. I guess my hesitation is the fact that the fight was this close as a minus 1,000 favorite is just still, that there's still some wiggle room there. Kudos to Gleison Tibau. I mean, got to kind of question where Rory's at this point. Just losing this fight, he should have won it. He had all these advantages, age, significant reach, and he was on a ton of momentum. And just goes to show, there's no sort of perfect silver lining with analyzing a fight. So kudos to Tibau. This is one of the guys that people thought debatably beat Khabib, even though it was a while ago. So he's definitely got quite the resume. I'm interested to see how this tournament plays out. This was definitely a very significant result in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and Tibau's been fighting forever against everyone, guys, but I don't think he won this fight. But I mean, just the fact you said it was that close, and this is the risk of betting those minus 1,000 favorites. I still think he won the fight, though. It's just that Rory, to the judges, I think they thought he was kind of backing up a little bit too much, maybe, and they went against him. They punished him for backing up. He was trying to play it safe, I guess. But the thing is, it didn't really affect the tournament, actually. Tibau needed to finish Rory to get into it, but apparently he's going to be in the next one. Ray Seffel said that. I just saw on Twitter, by the way, my boy Jason Floyd tweeted this. He said he just spoke to Ricky Glenn, and Rick Glenn just signed a new 4-fight extension with the UFC. So that's good to hear. There we go, AJ. So there's some news, guys. All right, let me get this comment, Matt. Not sure what open scoring feels like. Rory knew he was behind. He would just decide to win, maybe, but you got to know that the fight's competitive, anyways. You know what I mean? Like he should have won the fight, but he was shocked when he lost. Kenshiro thinks Tibau's juiced up. I mean, I don't know what the drug testing is like in PFL, guys. I honestly have no idea. But yeah, I mean, man, Tibau's had a good career though, AJ. Like 36 and 15. Wins over Rory MacDonald, Will Brooks. And you look at some of these names here, guys, like Trinaldo, Rafael Dos Anjos, Jeremy Stevens. I mean, he's been fighting forever. Like he was in the UFC in 2006. He fought Nick Diaz in his first fight in the UFC. So this guy he's kind of a legend a little bit, I would say, in a way. He beat Thiago Alves in 2001. Holy shit. 20 years ago. That is crazy. June 30th, 2001, he beat Thiago Alves. That is nuts. All right. I know this one surprised you too, AJ, and PFL is very tricky. I don't know, like, if you've been betting it, AJ, or if you've been kind of scared off by some of these big upsets. And here's another one that I know you thought was going the other way. Ray Cooper, the third defeat Nikolai Aleksei, and he looked great, man. He was moving forward the whole fight, and Nikolai was just on his back foot, AJ. Just really couldn't get it going. Give me your thoughts on this one, man.
Yeah, kudos to Cooper. I got this one wrong, and I actually haven't been betting PFL. I just don't have enough time to like firmly tape study it. But like with Cooper, I guess my reason for predicting Nikolai here was I guess I was factoring too much the John Howard loss. I should maybe give Cooper some slack there. It was just a knockout. Maybe he gets knocked out again. But from a round winning perspective, we saw who the better fighter was. Kudos to Cooper. He's like, in my opinion, on like the Mount Rushmore of PFL. So it's nice to see him pick up a W.
Yes. That's a great point. Yeah, the guy, I love this guy. I mean, he's a fun guy to watch. He won the last tournament. He'll be in the Final Four. All right, how about this fight? Give me your thoughts on the scorecard for this one. Emiliano Sordi and Dan Spawn. I don't know about the – okay, they called it a draw, guys. I don't know about that. I thought Sordi should have won because, okay, he did get a point deduction, I think, in the fight. But the thing is, the first round should have been 10-8. He landed like 200 strikes, AJ. He was absolutely dominant. Like, remember they showed that stat? It was just counting. It was just like – 10-9 from these judges. AJ, what do you have to do to get a 10-8 in the sport, man?
Yeah, well, and it had me thinking the same thing with Diamond versus Loughlane. I thought there was for sure 10-8 in there, and then we saw 28-28. I'm like, some of these scorecards just don't even make sense to me. I try to look at it from various angles, and I just don't even see the argument sometimes. So, like, I would just like somebody who scored this fight to explain it to me, or even the Diamond versus Loughlane fight. Like, where was this? Where was this coming from exactly? I just don't see it. So yeah, I agree with you. I think you make a valid point. I think you can make a case that's already won. It continued on with the trend of just big favorites not coming through for this card. A lot of them just crashed and burned. We'll get to some that didn't, but it was just one of those nights where it was the day of the dog. So it really excites people, I think, from a betting perspective, whenever you get all these like plus 400 underdogs win. And even though Spoon didn't win, if you had a Spoon ticket as a big underdog, you're probably happy that he took it to a draw and pushed.
And Chris Camozzi won as a big underdog, AJ. He was like, what, plus 300 or something? He beat Cesar Ferreira. I mean, he looked great. Ferreira looked good in the first round, AJ, but that gas tank once again showed up, and the chin issue showed up, and Camozzi just really beat him up. I thought Camozzi should have tried harder for a finish, knowing that he needed it to get in the tournament, but just he couldn't get it going. But he did win the fight. So, man, I mean, that's a good upset win for Chris Camozzi. I'm assuming he'll be back next year. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you put out a tweet on Twitter afterwards. I think you made a good point about the durability and the cardio for Ferreira. We saw that hinder him a bit in the UFC, particularly the Heinisch fight, his most recent UFC fight. And yeah, kudos to Camozzi. He hasn't been fighting the most frequently these past few years in terms of like MMA. But yeah, he needed this win. And yeah, I mean, this wasn't like the most desirable result. Like you said, you probably want to get a finish, but gives him some momentum in the future. And yeah, I think we kind of know that maybe that, Ferreira knockout over who did he knock out in the first fight? It was the guy that Jared Cannonier knocked out in the UFC. Blanking on his name.
Nick Roerick or something like that. Yeah, Nick Roerick.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I could only get so excited, I guess, after this performance. But yeah, kudos to Camozzi.
Any thoughts on this fight? Antonio Carlos Jr. and Vinny Magalhães, accidental knee to the groin, AJ, in the first round. You think Vinny should have continued? Any thoughts?
It's just weird because like it had me thinking back to when Carlos Jr. fought Kevin Casey and then they had that eye poke. It feels like, it's only happened twice to Carlos Jr., but it's like these are the guys that like he's going to go out there and beat because he's such a big favorite. And I know you and me both picked him, but we didn't get to see the fight play out. I hope they could run it back. I don't know if anybody could fault Vinny for not continuing. It's, whatever.
No,
but yeah, well, hopefully they run it back. That would be the most desirable thing I would like to see them do here with this fight.
Now, how about this fight? I told you, I said Martin Hamlin. I said, guys, the last fight, all the value's gone now. He's a huge favorite now. Don't do it now at 300. And he goes out there and loses, AJ. Corey Hendricks picks up a huge upset, and I believe he's in the tournament now, if I'm not mistaken. So just an unbelievable upset here, AJ. Third round submission for Corey Hendricks. One-time UFC fighter, AJ. We talked about him last week, man. Gets the win here, man. What do you think?
Yeah, this was like so one-sided, like for the first like 2.5 minutes or 2.5 rounds, and just Hendricks just comes back, and like it was one of those, like you saw the stats, like you didn't even need to see the fight. Like if you just saw the stats of this fight, you knew it was just a one-sided ass kicking. It kind of reminded me of Mirsad Bektic versus Darren Elkins to some extent, and then Hendricks, former Ultimate Fighter guy, came back and got the rear naked choke, and like you said, he needed it. So yeah, I don't know that I trust him going forward because we just saw that he could get his ass kicked for 2.5 rounds, but in terms of like momentum, in terms of like actually putting him in a position to win, I'm super happy for the guy.
Man, crazy comeback for sure. Again, PFL has been tricky, guys. I mean, I know a lot of people that you guys know I'm not a huge like guy who likes to parlay huge favorites or anything like that, but a lot of people do, and I know that people have been losing money like crazy on PFL. So if you do that, it just shows you like, don't be too sure about these huge favorites that are kind of like, AJ, these guys are still unproven fighters, and Martin Hamlin's not a proven fighter. You know what I mean? So you're laying minus 300 that guy. It's not a great investment. Even though, again, he was dominating the fight. Another guy dominates his fight. Joe Zeffirino defeats Jason Ponate. I think that was pretty clear that was going to happen. And then Magomed Karamov defeats Curtis Miller. Any quick thoughts on those two fights?
Ponate rocked him at the very beginning of the fight, if memory serves, and then after that, Zeffirino, took over after that. But like if you had a Zeffirino take, you're probably a little sweaty after that first exchange there. But nonetheless, he proved that he was the favorite there. And Magomed Karamov. I mean, what can I say? This guy's a stud. We know that Millender, he struggles a lot as a wrestler and grappler, and we've seen it time and time again with his weakness, and he probably faced the best wrestler grappler that he's faced. So like in theory, this was just a much tougher matchup for even a guy like that he faced like Bilal Muhammad or Zaleski dos Santos. Magomed Karamov, looked like he hurt his leg at the very beginning of the fight, but then, once he got to the fight to the ground, it was over pretty much.
Joe Zeffirino started his career 1-3, and now he's 26-9. So he's really improved over the years. Good for this guy, man. But you're right. He's been knocked out 4 times in his career, AJ. I don't know who he's fighting, but like if he fights Ray Cooper, that could be a knockout against him, man. Ray Cooper definitely knocked this guy out. 2 other fights here, AJ. Man, and I talked to you, AJ. I said, don't bet on Jordan Young, guys, last week. Minus 400. Like this guy, he hasn't fought in a while. Tom Lawler's pulled off some upsets. I even talked about that John Vellante fight, and Tom Lawler goes in there, dominates the fight, AJ. 30-27, huge upset here, AJ, Tom Lawler. And then I think he retired after the fight. Wow. I mean, any thoughts on this one, man?
Yeah, this was a big upset. I mean, like Jordan Young was like a minus 440 favorite. And I think part of it was just a lot of people thought Lawler was on his way out. And, he like you said, he retired after the fight. So in a sense he was, but he just, Young couldn't stop the takedowns, couldn't get up off of his back. So whenever I see a fighter with bad takedown defense and bad get-ups, I typically look to fade them. Against a fighter that could impose the wrestling and top control. Last fighter that came to mind was when I had Montana De La Rosa over Ariane Lipski. Mm-hmm. It's just something that I like to see. It's just if you got that hole in your game at the UFC level, it's just tough to win fights long term. So Young showed a big hole in his game, a big weakness.
Yep, no, I agree with that. Just in the last fight, Sabadusi picks up the win over Aleksei Kuchenko. You said, AJ, you said this guy's very inactive, guys, and I thought Kuchenko would win this fight, and he loses. Any thoughts quickly on that one?
Yeah, I think the reach of C and just Kuchenko just having no urgency to close the distance. Even when he did, he couldn't take him down really. It was just, he got hurt at one point. Like Kuchenko is almost 40 years old now. At one point he was like 20-0, but now things don't seem to be trending in the right direction. It's one thing to lose to Gilbert Burns and Zaleski dos Santos, but now it just, it just doesn't seem to be trending the right way. So I hope this guy could retire off a win, but I'm not exactly sure what his upside is in the PFL right now.
I feel like he probably came over to like the States a little bit too late in his career. Like you said, 30, I think he's 37, 38 now, right, AJ? So If he came over maybe like when he was 30, not when he was 35, he would have did better. But like you said, even that, I think you even said that Thiago Alves fight worried you because it was so close, right? Over a guy that really, like, at that point in his career should have styled on. I did notice today that they announced Sordy's fight, or not Sordy, excuse me, C is fighting Gleison Tibau in just a non-tournament fight in August. So that's kind of a good fight, I guess. Could be an interesting fight. I mean, C with that reach, like you said, AJ. But Tibau, I mean, that's, especially after beating Rory, you'd imagine he'd be favored in that fight. Matt Mack says he would love Lawler consult the UFC improving fighter walkouts. Dude, he was the absolute best. I'm not sure if this is a little bit before your time, AJ, with Tom Lawler and his walkouts. Do you remember any of his like Dan Severn type walk? You should look it up, AJ. Look up the video later on. It's awesome. The guy did a great job with it. The shocker, I remember he did once too. He had the one with Seth Petruzzelli where he had him on the leash. He was walking him out. That was awesome. So the UFC, they don't like giving the fighters too much personality, it seems like, and I don't think they'll let that happen, but it was awesome. Jose said what's going to happen with Verdun and Usman. So I don't know. I mean, they both, I guess, pulled out. I guess started the tournament, Jose, but knowing PFL, I mean, if there's an injury, maybe they can insert them back in later on, but I think they're out. I'm just going to double check what are they saying here, but I think he's out. Isn't he out, AJ? Like, I mean, they're going to move on with the tournament, right? These guys fell into their fights. I'm going to double check.
Yeah, I'm not sure offhand.
Yeah, Jose, I think we all know it's kind of fly by night here with PFL. I feel like the rules change on a daily basis with their tournament sometimes. So I don't know. We'll see, AJ. I mean, or Jose. Hopefully they can get them back in the tournament. But I think once you're out, you're out. It does say that Verdun's still in it, but I don't know. I think no, Ferreira's going to fight again this week, so he'll get more points probably. Anyways, yeah, that's it for PFL, AJ. There is PFL 6 this week. AJ, you come in with me Thursday if you want, and you can preview it with me. That'd be kind of cool. And also Bellator as well. So hopefully you can do that with me. And tomorrow, guys, Marcel's going to be back with me at 7 p.m. Eastern. Just want to mention that again. So different time tomorrow. Let's do some news, and we'll get out of here quickly, AJ. Just get some news headlines. I don't know if you saw, but Whitaker had some critical comments to say about Adesanya here.
No,
called his performance average. He says he had an average performance. So let's read the comment here. Robert Whitaker dubs his performance average. Watching that fight against Vettori, you can see Adesanya is non-touchable. It reinforced the fact he's very human, very touchable. I actually thought his performance was average. Not average in the context of being bad, but he never did anything more he had to do. Didn't do anything flashy. Didn't do anything more than necessary. It's a good approach. Certainly doesn't put you in the realm of gods. He's definitely not a god. He's a good fighter, but not as good as he thinks he is. And Adesanya said, if I'm not as good as I think I am, then what does that make you after he knocked him out in the first fight? Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for this rematch. I actually think Whitaker has a decent shot, guys. I mean, based on the way he looked at that last fight, he's really mixing it up. And again, I feel like he's probably a little bit more well-rounded in mixed martial arts, but Izzy obviously has that reach, and he dominated Whitaker the first time. I was all over it the first time. I'm just saying, I can see what Whitaker's saying. He didn't show anything new, I guess, in the fight. He just did what he needed to do to win. What are your thoughts, AJ? Any thoughts on those comments?
Yeah, I mean, he might just be talking just because they got a fight coming up and maybe sell more seats. Whitaker's, yeah, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. So for him to just completely heel turn like a Colby Covington, I just think it would be a bit too unrealistic. So I think him saying this is a bit, him stepping outside of his comfort zone and trying to maybe make that next fight be a bit more of a sell.
I agree. All right, let's go to some other stuff. Yuri Prochazka, he wants to jump in the octagon. Alexander Rakic wants to fight. I put the tweet out, guys. James interviewed Rakic. I wrote the article up. Rakic responded on Twitter. He actually quote tweeted us at BJ, and he was like, he's like, I agree that Jan's the champ right now. He's gonna fight Glover. I want to fight Prochazka. That fight makes so much sense, AJ. I just think, and they should do it as the co-main event, just so it has there's insurance in case, just say Glover gets hurt or something. There's a COVID test. I don't know, whatever, right? Or even Jan. You put one of those guys in. Vitor wants to fight Anderson again in boxing. We got to talk about Anderson Silva. That's another thing I want to mention this. Anderson Silva won. Wow. I got to be honest, guys. I was surprised he won. I got to be honest. I thought for sure he was going to lose this fight. 46 years old, AJ, going into a sport that he doesn't have a lot of experience in. It's only his third fight. He looked unbelievable, AJ, from what I saw. I mean, fast, elusive. Wins a split decision over a guy with 60 boxing fights. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's a nice win to have on your resume. I know that Chavez Jr., a lot of people were criticizing him. He came in out of shape. He wasn't. He missed weight for the fight. Didn't seem like he took it seriously. But I mean, I think like that would just be taken away from Anderson, AJ. I gotta be honest, after seeing him get knocked out by Uriah Hall, I was like, this guy, I could never pick him again. And he goes in there and he wins his boxing return. What's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, Anderson for the first time in a long time, making an MMA appearance in the boxing ring and putting making a strong impression. Split decision or not, I think a lot of people counted him out. He was such a big underdog. Yeah. And at 46 years old, things didn't seem to be trending the right way. And then he goes out there and wins a performance, split decision or not. It was definitely a good performance by him, one that exceeded a lot of expectations. So, I'm not ready to say he's going to make a title run or anything like that. But, it's good for the time being that he picked up this win in a spot that, a lot of people, including myself, thought he would lose. So,
oh, dude, I mean, I wrote an article for Spectation Sports and I was wrong. I was like, man, I'm like, I think the line was like minus 250 when I wrote the article. I'm like, there seems to be value on Chavez here. Like, I don't think Silva wins. Then the line ballooned too high. It got to like minus 600-700. So if you put money on Spider, I think he was plus 500. AJ, that was a good hit. He won the fight. So get the last question here. Matt was asking about drug testing protocols. I mean, bro, I have no idea, and I'm not even going to speculate, man. I mean, he's obviously been caught before. You got to love the guy. Anyways, I think that's it, AJ. I mean, is there anything else that was on the weekend? Anything else you want to talk before we get out here?
No, I mean, we got a busy week, Bellator, PFL, tough, UFC, and then we got a week off, and Conor Poirier after that. So
I'm looking forward to the week off next week. It's going to be like the last week off I have, AJ, until I have my daughter like in a few weeks. So I want to try to really enjoy that time next week, guys, because I know that once she comes in like a month from now, it's going to be crazy between work and taking care of the kid, right? So it's going to be nuts. I'm going to really enjoy next week. Chill out, play some video games, AJ. Just try to be a young guy again, and then my life as a father will kick off soon. Anyways, I think that's it for today. AJ, please plug your stuff, man. We'll get out of here.
Yeah, on Twitter at AJ Schullo. Got Bellator content posted already at dailyfanmma.com. We got a special going on. You can buy the PFL and Bellator weekly pass for $9.99 this week, and this week only. So you can take advantage of that. All my bets are third-party tracked and verified at betmma.tips/AnthonyS364. Yeah, cheers, Adam. Good luck to everybody in the comments section, and let's do this thing.
AJ, I appreciate you joining me again on short notice, man. Marcel again will join me again tomorrow, guys. 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be previewing UFC Vegas 30, Volkov versus Gane. Looking forward to that. And then Thursday, hopefully AJ can join me again. We'll do Bellator and PFL. In the meantime, guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. Podcast, MMAObsBigger.com. It's on their YouTube channel, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, all those places, Google. I mean, there's tons of places you can get the podcast. Always trying to get new people to listen to it. Love you guys joining the chat. Appreciate it. We're also at my bjpen.com, miaminews.com, Fantasy Fanatics, Spectation Sports, and, of course, Elite Fantasy, Elite Sports Betting. Last week was a break-even week. I'm looking for a good week, though, here tonight. So the last card, like AJ said, until we get a 2-week break or whatever, and looking forward. So that's it for today. And Matt said that's drinks. Thanks, guys. No worries, man. Hope you have a great day, Matt, and everyone else who joined us today. AJ, appreciate it again. Talk to you guys soon. Back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. Breakdown UFC Vegas 30. Peace.